English with Rob.
Hello there. Welcome to the first full-length English with Rob podcast. Before this episode, I released a shorter introductory episode in which I introduced myself and my ideas for this podcast, but this is the first time I'm making a full-length podcast, and hopefully it's the first of many. So my name is Rob, obviously. This is the English with Rob podcast. I also have an English with Rob YouTube channel, English with Rob Facebook page, and English with Rob Instagram account, so you can go and check out whichever one of those you would like to look at. What's happening in today's episode? Well, I have a theme today. The theme is going to the hairdressers, because I went to the hairdressers for the first time in a long time at the beginning of the week. Because future listeners, if you're listening in the future, way a few weeks in the future or further, hopefully you're not living through the COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, which we are in right now. So normally getting your hair cut is an average, normal, boring activity. When I went at the beginning of the week, it was exciting because it had been a long time since I had been to the hairdressers. At the beginning of the pandemic, my hair was already quite long. Then it got crazy long as the hairdressers were closed. It got like Wolverine style crazy long. So I decided to shave it, and I shaved my head with some clippers. It looked okay. It looked fine. But 3 weeks later, it did not look fine because it all grew back. So all of the hair on my head was the same length. I had no hairstyle. I had no shape. So at the beginning of this week, I was able to go back to the hairdressers, tell them exactly what I want, and now I feel normal again. I feel like I look okay again, finally. Okay, so I'm going to give you some useful vocabulary and phrases about going to the hairdressers so that you will be able to go to the hairdressers in the UK or anywhere in the English-speaking world, and you will be able to tell them exactly what you want and walk out of there with the hairstyle you want, not the hairstyle you don't want. Not a hairstyle that makes you look crazy, stupid, ugly. I think a bad haircut can make you look ugly. Anyway, you can go with confidence that you will have what you want when you go home. After that, we will hear from my guest English teacher this week, Shereen. Shereen, an American English teacher from the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook accounts, and English Nerd. And she is a great teacher. She's got some really useful resources on all of her social media. Definitely check her out. Then we will hear my phrasal verb of the week. Every week in this podcast, I aim to bring you a phrasal verb because phrasal verbs are something native English speakers use all the time, and they are they useful? Yes, they're useful to help you sound more native, and they are useful in that you will understand what native English speakers are saying when they use a verb like run, which you know, but then they say a phrase like run out of, and you're thinking, wait, run, who ran? Where? No, run out of means to have no more remaining of something. It's a phrasal verb. So every week I will bring you a or some phrasal verbs. What else? After that, we will hear from some English learners. I want English learners to feature in this podcast. So every week on Facebook or Instagram, I'm going to ask you a question. And you are welcome to send me a voicemail, a voice message in response, telling me your answer to the question or telling me a short story about the theme, and I will put it in the next podcast, and English learners can learn from each other. I will point out the great language you use, and I will point out some language which we can improve. And at the end, I want to try to end every podcast with a grammar song, or at least until I run out of grammar songs. And this week, I'm going to bring you a song from Grammar Rocks. Grammar Rocks is a really underrated YouTube channel. Underrated. That means this channel should have a lot more subscribers and viewers than it has. Not many people know about it, but it is really good. So I want to introduce that to you, and at the end of this podcast, we will hear a song from Grammar Rocks. So there you go. There's my long introduction. Now let's jump straight into some useful vocabulary and phrases about hairdressing. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is that in English, you get your hair cut. This week, I got my hair cut. So I'm using the singular, and it might seem strange to some of you non-native English speakers, because in many other languages, you would say the equivalent of, I'm going to get my hairs cut, because I understand it, they are cutting all of your hairs. But in English, we use the singular. When I talk about all of my hair, I say my hair. I'm going to get my hair cut. So if I tell you, hey, I'm going to get my hair cut later, you might think, oh, really? Which one? Why just one hair? Just get all your hairs cut. But no, that's not what I mean. I'm going to get my hair cut. I'm talking about my whole head of hair. All of my hair. So where do you go if you want to get your hair cut? Or you can use the noun to get a haircut. Well, you go to the hairdressers. The hairdressers. You can also go to a barber's. A barber's is a hairdresser's, which is only for men. And the great thing about barbers is normally you don't need an appointment. You can just go in and wait. You could also go to a hair salon. A hair salon. And often in English we use French words. And if ever you hear a French word in English, it usually means it's more high class, more luxury. Another example is boutique. You can go and get your clothes from a shop, okay? But you could also go and buy some clothes from a boutique. And a boutique in English is a shop which is more, to use another French word, more chic, more stylish, more high class, more expensive, more bespoke. Yes, French words usually mean high class, high quality, luxury. Who is the person who cuts your hair? Well, that is the hairdresser, or the barber, or you might call them a hairstylist. A hairstylist. And it's important to say, I want to get my hair cut, or I want to have my hair cut, not I want to cut my hair. Because if you say, oh, my hair's really long, I want to cut my hair tomorrow, it means you are going to cut your hair yourself. You're going to take the scissors or the clippers. Clippers are electric shavers, or a razor, and you're going to do it yourself. It's not a good idea. Many people have been doing that during the coronavirus pandemic, and they have been finding it's not a great idea. I did it myself. I shaved my head, but I had to have my wife help me with the back. I just couldn't do the back bit. What can you have done? What are some services that the hairdressers offer? Well, you can have a trim. You can have or get a trim. And a trim is when you just have a little bit of hair cut off. Just a little bit of hair cut off. You're not changing your style or doing anything drastic. You're just making it the same style, but a bit shorter than it is, to get or to have a trim. You can have highlights or lowlights. To get or to have highlights is when it's about colouring or dyeing your hair, but it's not the it's not all of the hair, it's just parts of your hair. Long strands. You can have them, you can have highlights, which means it's lighter than the rest of your hair, or you can have lowlights, which means these bits are darker than the rest of your hair. If you want your hair to be curly, you can ask for a perm. A perm. I've never had a perm. I don't think I ever will have a perm. But if you have some long hair and you want it to be really curly, you can say, I'd like a perm, please. You can have your hair layered. You can have your hair layered. That's difficult to explain. It's where some of the hair is longer and some of the hair is shorter, and it gives your hair layers. To help you picture this, Jennifer Aniston in Friends, the really famous TV show, she was one of the first people to make this style popular, having your hair layered. So if you think about Jennifer Aniston's hair in the 90s, now too, I don't know. But in Friends, definitely, usually she had layered hair. I mentioned highlights and lowlights. So this is dyeing your hair. You can have your hair dyed, or you can have your hair coloured. You can have your hair thinned. You can have your hair thinned to make it thinner. This is something they do to me when I don't always ask for it, but sometimes they take out these scissors which don't have a blade. They have like blocks on, serrated blocks, and these are used to thin my hair. What can you ask for? What style can you ask for? Here are some hairstyles. Here's what I usually have: a short back and sides. A short back and sides, which means it's short at the back, it's short at the sides, and it's a little bit longer on top. And normally when I ask for this, I say, I'd like a number 2 on the back and sides, please, and a bit shorter on the top. A number 2 refers to when they use the clippers, which are the electric shaving machine, and like scissors, it's one thing, but we use the plural, so clippers. When they use clippers, they can put an attachment on the end. Some attachments make your hair very, very short. Some attachments make your hair not so short. If you have a number 1, it's very short. If you have a number 2, it's quite short. If you have a number 3, it's not so short. 4, not as short as that. You get the idea. So I say number 2 on the back and sides, please. Another hairstyle is a bob. A bob. This is a hairstyle mostly for women, and it's when women have hair to the length of their neck or the jawline. The person who is most famous for having a bob is the Vogue editor Anna Wintour. She always has a bob. You can have a fringe. A fringe. For people with long hair, you can part your hair. You can have it all long and just part it over your face. Or you can have a fringe. And a fringe is when you have a line of shorter hair on your forehead above your eyes. So you don't have to part your hair on your face. You have a fringe. And Americans have another word for this. Americans call them bangs. So we use a singular, a fringe, but for some reason they use a plural, bangs. I've never really had bangs because I've never had hair long enough to need bangs. Well, I wouldn't say bangs anyway because I'm British. I've never had a fringe. Okay, a side parting or a center parting. So I talked about parting your hair to send some of it to one side of your face or your head and to send the rest of it to the other side. If you part your hair in the middle of your head, then you have a center parting. If you part your hair on the side of your head, then you have a side parting. Here's another cut for ladies. If you have a shorter haircut, then that's sometimes called a pixie cut. A pixie cut. It's when it's very short, it maybe has some spiky bits. It's like a pixie. What's a pixie? Don't know exactly, but it's like a fairy. It's a fantasy tiny person. Something else you can have at the hairdressers is a wash, cut and blow dry. This is a service where they wash your hair, they cut your hair, and then they dry it with a hairdryer. A wash, cut and blow dry. What tools might the hairdresser use? Well, scissors. They would use some scissors for sure. Clippers, I already mentioned, the electric razor. They might use some hair straighteners or curling tongs. And these are like, how can I describe them? Big scissors which are hot, which have a hot plate on. This is hair straighteners. And curling tongs are like a hot rod which the hair is curled around. And if you have highlights, another tool they might use is foils. They might use some foils. So foil, the thin aluminium metal which you might wrap your sandwiches in. They put this on your hair to separate the parts which will be highlights, and the hair dye goes into the foils. Okay, so there's some useful vocabulary, some things that they use, some hairstyles, and some parts of your hair. Now let me give you some useful phrases. So you can simply say, hello, I'd like a, and then the hairstyle, please. Hello, I'd like a bob, please. I'd like a crew cut, please. I'd like a short back and sides, please. That's usually if you're going to change your style from the style you already have. So if you're walking in the hairdressers with long hair, you want to have short hair, you can say, I'd like to have a bob, please. Another phrase you might need if you're walking into a hairdresser's you've never been to before is, do I need to make an appointment? Do I need to make an appointment? Or you can just say, do I need an appointment? And an appointment is when you have an arranged time to go. You can't just walk in from the street and wait for them to cut your hair. You need to have an appointment. You can say something like, just a bit shorter, please. Just a bit shorter. Or you can use the measurements. Please take about a centimeter off. Please take off about a centimeter. Or if you're in the USA, you might say an inch or half an inch because they don't use the metric system. Okay, yeah. I think that's all. I think that's all the vocabulary and phrases I'm going to give you for today. You will hear some more in my chat with Shereen from An English Nerd, because now it's time to talk to a teacher. Here we go.
I'm a teacher, you're a teacher. Hey teacher, nice to meet you. Let's talk to a teacher, yeah.
So, I'm pleased to welcome my first ever podcast guest. It's Shereen from An English Nerd. An English Nerd, hi. That's the name of your Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Did I leave out any other social media avenues you have?
Those are the main ones, yeah. Okay. Exactly. I'm Shereen from An English Nerd. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. So here's what I know about Shereen. I'll tell you, and then you can correct me and add stuff. So, Shereen is an English teacher.
Exactly.
She is a nerd about English. She lives in Minnesota.
Yep.
Yeah. It's strange to say Minnesota with an English accent because I always hear it Minnesota, where the T is a D. Is it strange to hear someone say Minnesota?
Not really, I guess, but that's because I'm familiar with the British accent. But yeah, all Americans would definitely say Minnesota with that flat T. Yeah.
So what else did I miss? What else can we say? One thing I don't know is, do you teach in classrooms as well as online?
No, so you got it right. I have been teaching for almost 12 years, I guess, and I'm not teaching in the classroom right now, but most of my experience is in the classroom. And it's because just in the past.
sorry to interrupt, because you're not teaching right now in the classroom because of the coronavirus?
No. I stopped teaching 2 years ago. So it's just the past 2 years that I've been teaching online. And that's mainly because I left my job to get a master's degree. And during that time, I just went full-time and stopped working and started teaching online halfway through that.
Okay. And how did you find that transition?
Well, my master's degree was in technology and education. So it started as kind of an experiment. Teaching online was kind of an experiment to go along with my master's degree. Mm-hmm. And it's very different, but I think that there are pros and cons to both situations, whether it's face-to-face or online.
Yeah, I agree. There are things I miss because I'm not teaching in classrooms right now because of COVID. There are things I miss about that, but then there are things that I can do online that I can't do in a classroom.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in Minnesota. You're in Minneapolis, right?
I'm in a suburb of Minneapolis, so not far from Minneapolis, but not living in the city. I'm in the more boring part of Minnesota.
Okay. So you've not really seen anything of the George Floyd protests? Do you sense a different atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really in front of my face, but I would say that, watching the news, it feels very close to home. But I haven't seen any protests or anything like that myself. So
okay,
yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's something that I think that not only my state, but the whole world is becoming more aware of a problem that's always existed, but that maybe we've just, I don't want to say we didn't care, but we're actually thinking about it now, which is, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with thinking about it a lot more than in the past, and obviously there have been previous police brutality events which have been shared on social media, and then there have been other protests, but this one feels different for some reason. I think it's a really positive, it's not a positive thing that it happened obviously, but it's a really positive thing that a movement has come out of it. And you're there in the center, not in the center of it because you're away from it, but you're in the same state, and it's really spread around the world. Great.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of our audience, a lot of English learners in different countries and stuff, it might not be something that that they've thought of before either. So it's just, I don't know, it's just really has impacted the whole world. This one event that kind of is the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess.
Right, yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's get down to my subject of this podcast, which it seems very trivial to go into this from talking about George Floyd protests. So my subject today is going to the hairdressers.
Yes, where we haven't been for a long time.
Well, actually, maybe you can tell, we're speaking on Zoom now, so we can see each other. I actually have been recently, which I will probably mention at the start of the podcast. Yeah, I went at the weekend. Now it's Wednesday. But before it was, I shaved it myself. And then it grew back.
How was that?
Well, that was okay. I'd done it before when I was a student to save money. But my face was thinner back then. It was okay. Shaving it was fine. It looked okay. I had my wife finish the back of it.
Okay.
But then when it grows back, it's all the same length all over. Yeah. And that's not a good look for my liking. But yeah, so you've not been to the hairdressers in how long?
Oh, I mean, well, before lockdown started, it had already been a while. So
for me too, that's the problem.
Yeah. But I think for women, it's not as we are used to our hair growing to longer lengths usually than men. Not always, but yeah.
Okay. So when you do go to the hairdressers, what do you usually say? What do you usually ask for?
Okay, so I am not very fussy about my hair. My hair is not thick, and it's straight and sadly flat. And so when I go to the hairdresser, I'm pretty flexible. I usually tell them to do whatever they want to do.
Oh, that's brave.
Yeah. I mean, I tell them I don't want it like shorter than my shoulders, for example. But I'm usually pretty flexible. I think that people who have more difficult hair usually have larger requests. But yeah, I usually ask for a trim. I usually just go for a trim. So I would take off just a few inches.
Okay, a trim. Okay. I want to pick up on a word that you said. You said, I'm not fussy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fussy. And then you said the opposite. I'm flexible.
Yes.
Well, flexible is the opposite of fussy. So yeah, if a person is fussy, they are very particular about what they want. But you're not fussy, right? You're not particular.
No.
Anything is okay.
I'm not fussy. And because I'm not fussy, I've had a bad haircut before.
Oh, well, that was actually one of my next questions. So tell us about your bad haircut.
Yeah, okay. So I told the hairdresser to do whatever she wanted, as I always do. But this was a hairdresser I had never been to before. And I had really long hair. And she decided to give me one single layer, which was significantly shorter than the length of my hair. So it was like really long hair, and then one level, maybe 4 inches shorter than the rest. It looked very, very strange. So then I had to cut the entire thing to be the shorter length.
You cut it yourself afterwards?
Oh, no.
Okay.
And actually, I didn't know she did a terrible job until I went to work, and my coworkers were like, something's wrong.
Okay, that's good. I think some people might be polite but not say anything. Maybe you got on well with your coworkers and they were happy to say not what's up with that hair, just something's not quite right.
Maybe teachers are honest.
Yeah, as far as I know. I suppose I wouldn't know if they weren't honest.
True.
If they were good at not being honest.
Very true.
Okay. Have you ever had, well, that was one time. Have you ever had a very different style, a very different hairstyle to your regular hairstyle?
So when I was a teenager, well, let me start by saying that for the majority of the time, my hair is long, and I wouldn't go above my shoulders. But when I was a teenager, I once had like a little, I guess, a short bob. It was like to my ears, and it was angled, so the back was shorter than the front.
Okay.
And they even shaved a little bit of the back. It wasn't my best look, so it's never happened again.
It never went back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty drastic change to go for a short bob with angled and shaved. Yeah.
It was very different than my typical look.
Okay. And okay, so what I want, at the beginning of this podcast, I have spoken about some vocabulary to do with hair. So let me ask you about putting your hair up. Are there different words, vocabulary that we can have for putting your hair up in different ways?
So I guess when you put your hair up, you can put your hair up in a ponytail, or you could put your hair up in a bun. And if your bun isn't tidy, like mine right now, we would call it a messy bun. So my hair is just up in a messy bun. You can throw your hair up into a messy bun or a ponytail.
I like bun. Bun, we should point out, is a food, right? It's a small, sweet bread roll kind of thing. So it's like having a small bread roll on your head, a bun.
I've actually never thought of that. You were absolutely
I never
right.
made that connection, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little small bread roll. And sometimes I put my hair half up. So I would just collect the top half of my hair and put it in a ponytail, or again, a small bun, an even smaller bun. And I think those are my only hairstyles. You could put your hair into braids as well.
Braids, yeah? You don't often braid your hair?
Not usually, no.
It's not common,
No.
I think, it's more of a thing you do when you're a kid, I suppose. Have
Yeah.
braids.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go to the hairdresser, do you like to talk with the hairdresser?
That's a great question. I feel obligated to talk with the hairdresser. Whether I like it or not, I'm going to say yes, because I think that it's awkward not to talk. So...
Okay, so you prefer talking than the awkward silence.
Yeah, I mean, you're too close to each other to not speak to one another. Yeah. What about you? Do you like to talk with the hairdresser? How does...
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I normally I do. And what I like about talking with the hairdressers now is that, so I'm in Germany and my German is not perfect. So it's an opportunity for me to have small talk, which is usually, you can talk about very basic things, where you live, what you do for a job, where you're from, and it's an opportunity for me to practice my German. But what sometimes happens is they'll ask me a question and I will answer, and I guess they will pick up that I'm not native, and sometimes they just won't talk to me anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know, maybe they think, oh, this is gonna be too difficult, or they think, oh, he's shy about his German. So then I will ask them a question, which I find awkward. If they're not talking to me, if I'm the one starting the conversation, I find that awkward, because normally I think, hey, you're the hairdresser. Normally they're the ones with the chat.
I would like to think that the reason why they choose not to talk to you once they know that you're foreign is that perhaps they don't want to make you feel nervous or uncomfortable. I would like to think that that's the case.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I never speak in English to them. I always only use German. Yeah, but when I was in England, yeah, I would chat with the hairdressers.
Yeah.
And it's strange, the random stuff that you end up talking about. What's the stereotypical thing people normally talk about, do you think?
I think that usually the hairdresser starts the conversation and will ask you what your job is, what you did today, or what you're planning to do, and then that will usually carry the conversation into other things. You can end up getting really personal, especially if you keep seeing the same hairdresser. They'll know little tidbits about your life, and they'll want updates on those things.
Yeah.
So.
Oh wow, they must have huge memories, right? They see so many people every day, and I guess after a while they remember all the details about their lives.
Yeah, my hairdresser in Minnesota, I would see her once a year, just when I was living abroad, and every year I would come home and get a haircut with her, and she would always remember like where I left off the year before. Like, so last time when I saw you, you were planning to do this. Did you do that?
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder if she, because you make an appointment, right? You schedule your hair. I wonder if she has a little notebook, and after each client, she'll write down some details, and then when she sees you're coming up again in the appointments book, just refresh. That's possible, right? I don't think they really would do that. But I would have to, because I would just think, oh, yeah, I've seen this person before. But chances are, unless you've done something really weird or really memorable, I wouldn't remember where you're at. Most, if I'm seeing like 5 or 6 people a day, every day.
That's very true. I don't know. Maybe she remembered me because it's unusual that I don't live at home. I'm not sure she remembered everyone. Maybe I'm special. Don't know.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, she doesn't remember everybody, and then
Yeah.
oh,
Definitely just me.
okay. So, well, one stereotypical thing. I don't know if it's the same in America, but in England, the stereotypical thing is for a hairdresser to say, "Are you going on holiday soon?" Or,
Oh,
have you been on
really?
holiday recently? Yeah, but I don't think they actually say that. But if you're going to do an impression of a hairdresser, you'll say, "Oh, have you got any holidays coming up?" And then that will be
Interesting.
yeah. But I don't think any hairdresser has ever actually asked me that.
I feel like people always end up talking about like their relationships. Like if either their spouses or their boyfriend or girlfriend, I always hear people around me talking about like those personal aspects of their life. I don't know how they get there, but
Must be interesting to work in a hairdresser's and get all the gossip.
yeah, well, sometimes I can hear people whispering. You know, when you're sat in the chair and there's someone else next to you getting their hair cut, I can hear them whispering to each other. I'm like,
Oh, it's hairdressers with all these powerful secrets.
mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so what I want to do now, to give the learners some helpful vocabulary phrases, is role play getting your hair cut.
Okay.
So I'll be the hairdresser.
Okay, are you going to ask me about my holiday?
I might do. I probably won't because I don't think that's realistic. But you don't have to tell me any secrets about relationships or whatever. But I haven't thought about this, but I think I have actually got some scissors here.
Oh, look at that.
So yeah, we can have the sound effects. It's a podcast. We can have the sound effects. Okay. So, oh, hi. You're here for your 12 o'clock appointment. Shereen, is it?
Yes, it is. I'm here for a haircut.
Okay, so what would you like today? What can we do for you?
I actually just want to get a trim, so no more than like 2 inches. But if possible, do you also wash and blow dry hair, or is it just a dry haircut?
No, we can do a wash, cut, and blow dry. Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
so please come over here and take a seat in front of the sink,
Sure.
and just bend your head back.
Okay.
Okay. Is that water the right temperature? Is it too hot, too
It's a
cold?
little bit cold. Could you make it a bit warmer, please?
Oh, yep. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
The last
No.
customer was a vampire.
No, don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay. So there we go. It's all washed. I'm just going to wrap this towel around. Okay. And now, would you like to take a seat over there in that seat?
Okay, sure.
Okay, I'll be with you shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, would you like a water, tea, or a coffee?
I would love a tea. What kind of tea do you have?
Oh, well, we've got most. We've got Earl Grey, Darjeeling, English breakfast, green tea.
A green tea sounds lovely.
Green tea.
Yeah,
Okay,
green tea.
I'll get Cassandra. Cassandra, could you get a green tea for the lady, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, Cassandra will be along shortly with your tea. And I've just got to find my my kit, my hairdressing kits. It's moved for some reason. I'll be with you in a second.
Okay, no problem. Take your time.
So I'm back now. Okay, so just a trim, yes?
Yes, just a trim. Yeah,
Okay,
please
here we
don't
go,
take
2
off
inch.
too much.
Okay, around 2 inches, you said.
Yeah, no
Okay.
more than 2 inches, please.
No more than 2 inches. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. So are you oh, it's been a while since you've had your haircut, right? With the COVID?
Yeah, I think my dead ends are probably pretty bad.
The dead ends. Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, they're not too bad. They're not too bad. We'll just get rid
Oh,
of them
good.
here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I try to take care of my hair.
Yeah? Oh, that's very important. We actually have some really great shampoos that you could try.
I'm actually not interested in purchasing any products today, but thanks.
Okay, no problem. So you going anywhere nice later?
No, actually, I'm just going home. Just going home.
Okay. I don't know what to say now. I can never
I'm
be
like,
a hairdresser.
it's just like the real hairdresser.
Yeah?
It's a little bit
Okay.
awkward.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, she didn't give me much to go on there. She's not going anywhere. What can I say now?
Sorry.
Oh, damn it. Okay, let's... We broke character completely. Do you like doing role play in the classroom when you're teaching?
Yeah, I think that it is really, really useful. I find though that not all students are willing to role play, especially in like an open character. They're fine with reading a dialogue, but a lot of people are really shy to invent a story.
Yeah, I find the same. Either that or the opposite, where somebody will completely really get into it and absolutely take over and have some ridiculous thing that happens in the role play that would not happen in real life or something like that. Yeah.
True. I also think that role play is slightly more uncomfortable for students over Zoom versus face to face. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't actually taught online since, ironically, before the pandemic. So
okay. It's a bit more, when you're sitting next to each other, you can be a bit more playful, but when you're just like staring at each other's faces, it feels very, if you're not used to it, I guess it seems very strange.
Yeah. I sprung that on you. That's an interesting phrase. To spring something on someone means to do something by surprise. I didn't tell you that we were going to do a role play before, so you weren't prepared. But I was like, she's a teacher. She can do role play.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You did spring that in on me, though.
Yeah, sorry.
No
okay,
problem.
well, let's leave it there. Hey, this has been so good. Do you mind if I call you back next week to be on the next podcast?
Of course. Let's do another one.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks a lot for joining me. I'll see you next week, Shereen.
Thank you so much, Rob. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you go. Brilliant. That was my chat with Shereen. And yes, she will be back next week, so you will hear more from her. Now it's time for my phrasal verb of the week.
Phrasal Verb of the week.
Okay, my phrasal verb for you this week. I wanted to try to stay close to the theme of having your hair cut. So here is a phrasal verb with cut. To cut down on. To cut down on. Or very similar, you can say to cut back on. To cut down on something, to cut back on something. And it means to do something less. Because the thing is something negative, something unhealthy or unsafe. For example, you might try to cut back on cigarettes. Cut down on cigarettes. And you can use the verb or the noun. You might try to cut down on smoking. Cut back on smoking, or cut down on cigarettes. Cut back on cigarettes. What else might you try to cut back on or cut down on? At the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, toilet roll was rare. It was difficult to buy toilet roll in the shops because lots of people were buying it. So, because of this, many people were trying to cut back on how much toilet paper they used. They were trying to cut down on how much toilet paper they used. So, instead of just being very liberal and taking 4 or 5 squares per wipe, people were just using 1 or 2. They were trying to cut back on or cut down on toilet paper. That's my phrasal verb of the week. To cut down on or to cut back on.
Phrasal Verb of the week.
And now it's time to hear from some English learners.
It's time to learn from the learners, English learners, it's your turn.
This week I asked you, have you ever had a bad haircut? And I got some great answers. Now listen, this is the first time I'm doing this. Every time I play an audio clip from somebody, I will ask you a question, ask you something to listen for when you're listening, so that you are listening with a reason. So the first person we're going to hear from is Azar from Iran. And my question for you is, was her new haircut short or long? Was her new haircut short or long? Here's Azar.
Hi, dear Rob. Yes, I had a bad haircut in the past time. The hairdresser cut my hair similar to boy haircut. It wasn't my desire.
Okay, so yes, it was like a boy's haircut, so it was short. Okay. And just a couple of things to tell you there, Azar. You said in the past time. In the past time. Now, in English, if you say in the past time, we're talking about really, really far in the past. A different time when the dinosaurs were around. When, what else can I say? In Britain, in maybe the Tudor times, or you're talking maybe about the Stone Age or the Iron Age, a completely different time in history, then you can say in the past time, because they're different times. But what you want to say is just in the past, in the past. And I want to pick out a pronunciation. Be careful with the pronunciation of hair. Hair. Today we're talking about hair, getting your hair cut. So hair, which is the same sound as air, which you breathe, or fair. If it's justified, it's fair. Fair, air, hair. That long air sound. But what I heard from you was her. Like him or her. And you're using that sound like in bird or fur or hear, heard. So be careful. It's not I want to get my hair cut. It's I want to get my hair cut. Now, to be fair to you, Azar, there are parts of England where they would say her. Like in Newcastle, I believe they would say her. But the most accepted, received pronunciation, English pronunciation of hair is hair. Okay. Next, let's hear from Chien from Taiwan. And my question for you, what to listen out for, is: was it Chien's choice to have a haircut? Was it Chien's choice to have a haircut? Have a listen.
Hi, it's from Chien. Yes, I have had a bad haircut. I would rather say that I had a bad experience when I was a little girl, because my mom and my auntie, they forced me to do the haircut, but I would love to my long hair instead of short hair. They thought I was a student, so it's better for me if I have a short hair to save time to wash my hair or to do brush my hair. So I was pretty sad when they are doing my haircut.
So was it Chien's choice? It wasn't. Her mum and auntie forced her. They forced her. Okay, but I want to talk about that, Chien, because you said, my mum and auntie forced me to do the haircut. My mum and auntie forced me to do the haircut. Like this, it means that they forced you to do it yourself. Perhaps that's what you mean. If that is what you mean, then you're right. They forced me to do the haircut. But if somebody else was cutting your hair, if a hairdresser was cutting your hair, then you would use the passive. My mum and auntie forced me to have my haircut. This is why throughout all of this I'm saying to have or to get your haircut, because you don't do it. The hairdresser cuts your hair. That's the active. But normally we don't talk about the hairdresser, we're talking about you. So we're using the passive because you are not the actor, so you're having or getting your haircut. Okay, Chien used some fantastic verbs. She said that with shorter hair it would be easier to wash your hair, to brush. You can say brush or comb your hair. To brush your hair is just fine. And she said to do your hair. This is something we say, to do your hair. For example, when I wake up in the morning before I go to work, it takes me maybe 10 seconds to do my hair. When I get out of the shower, I put in a bit of gel and I use a hairbrush to brush it this to the right and then side parting this bit to the left. I don't mean this to sound sexist, but ladies, sometimes it takes ladies longer to do their hair. Another thing to point out for Chien is, Chien said, I was pretty sad when they are doing my haircut. I was pretty sad is fine because it is in the past. I was pretty sad when they are doing my haircut. They are doing means it's happening right now. That's the present continuous tense. So we need to change that tense. I was pretty sad when they cut my hair. Or I was pretty sad when they made me get my hair cut, because again, they didn't cut your hair. You could also say I was pretty sad when I was having my hair cut. So then you're taking all of it into the past when I was having my haircut. The past continuous, so you're talking about when it was happening. Another thing to point out for Chien is, Chien, you said, I was pretty sad when they are doing my hair. So we've got two tenses there. I was pretty sad, great, because it's in the past. But when they are doing my hair, when they are doing, so present continuous, meaning it's happening now, but it's not happening now. So not they are doing, when they were doing. I was pretty sad when they were doing my hair. Oh, doing my haircut. Yeah, that's also fine. Okay, and Chien said it wasn't just a bad haircut, but a bad experience. And it sounds like it. I really like that line. Not just a bad haircut. I would rather say it was a bad experience. Great. Next, let's hear from Sarah. Sarah, who is half Egyptian, half Filipino. My question for you is, what part of her hair is she mainly talking about? What part of her hair is she mainly talking about here?
I've had a bad haircut when I try to trim my bangs because it gets shorter than it has to be and lays aren't in the same level, so it's so damaged and I regret it, and it was the worst haircut I've ever done at home.
So which part of her hair is she talking about? She's talking about her bangs. I tried to trim my bangs. Okay, trim, great word. Bangs, great word. Hey, I would not say bangs, I would say fringe, but you're not British, you're not American. You guys can choose the British or American versions of every word. Wait, that was confusing. There's not a British and American version of every word. Just some words. Okay. But Sarah, again, with you here, we need to talk about tenses, because you said it gets shorter. Layers aren't level. It's so damaged. These are all present simple, meaning now or in general, all the time. But you also said, I tried to trim my bangs, and it was the worst haircut I've ever done at home. These are past simple, so these make them in the past. And what I think here is that you should make them all past simple. I tried to trim my bangs. It got shorter. Layers weren't level. It was so damaged. It was the worst haircut I've ever done at home. Because all of this happened in the past, so we should use past simple. Next, it's Tika. Tika is not an English learner. She's another English teacher. She's someone who I have contact with on Instagram. She has the channel Tika Teaches English. Another great teacher. And my question for you is Tika talking about her own hair or someone else's? Is Tika talking about her own hair or someone else's? Have a listen.
Not me. but my sister once had a very bad haircut experience. She asked the hairdresser to cut her in a full fringe, and she didn't have any fringe at all before this. And they did. She was maybe about 10 or 11 at the time. So they cut her in a full fringe and she hated it. And she cried in front of the hairdresser. And the best part is, it was her birthday and they brought her a little cupcake and a candle, and she cried because she hated her hair so much.
Was she talking about her own hair? No, she was talking about her sister having a haircut and crying because she didn't like it. So sad. But Tika gave us a great piece of vocabulary there, something I didn't mention exactly in the introduction. So I told you what a fringe was. Tika used the verb to cut her in a full fringe. If you don't have a fringe already, you can cut in a fringe. Well, really, you should ask someone to cut you in a fringe. And that means to get a fringe when you didn't have one before. Okay. They were my learners for this week. Make sure you are on my Facebook page and my Instagram account if you want to be on the podcast in the future. And listen, I know I'm correcting your English here, but please don't feel upset that you have your mistakes pointed out. The way we learn is from learning from our mistakes. And if you are making mistakes and I'm correcting them, then you are learning. And other learners who might have made the same mistakes are learning. And hey, you might send me something with no mistakes, and we can just look at the great language that you used and learn from that too. Okay, now it's time for a song. I want to try to end every podcast with a song, and here is a great YouTube channel with lots of grammar songs on. It's called Grammar Rocks. Grammar Rocks with 3 exclamation marks. I'm sure if you search Grammar Rocks you will find it, but if you want to know that you found exactly the right channel, it's Grammar Rocks with 3 exclamation marks. So I suppose I should say Grammar Rocks! And this guy, Patrick, who makes these songs, and he also makes these really cool, trippy, psychedelic videos as well, with lots of green screen happening, lots of patterns going on, lots of weird locations that he uses. I really like the videos as well as the music, which is really well produced, and he makes songs which are catchy meaning it's a melody which really can stick in your head and is really nice to sing along to. So Patrick's song which I chose today is about prepositions of time and place, and there is a link here with getting your haircut, because if you need an appointment you will need to use some prepositions of time. And a useful thing which you will hear in this song is the lyrics: in is general, on is more precise, at is very, 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 very much precise. And it's true. In is general. For example, I'm getting my hair cut in the morning. Okay, that's very general. It doesn't really tell us much about when. I'm getting my hair cut in the morning on Tuesday. Ah, okay, more precise. Now we are getting a bit closer to being able to know when. I'm getting my hair cut in the morning on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock. Okay, at is very, very, very much precise. See, this song, a really useful way to remember some of these prepositions of place and time. And there are loads more in the song. Here we go. Rock out to this, and I'll see you in the podcast next week. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye.